Welcome back. We're here to preview Saturday afternoon's Premier League match between Manchester City and Newcastle. Barnes, we're recording this before their Champions League game against Mönchengladbach, but in terms of the Premier League, it's 2 defeats in a row now.
Yeah, it just goes to show how quickly things can change in the Premier League, doesn't it? A couple of weeks ago, after the first 5 games of the season, we're proclaiming Man City champions already, speculating how far they're going to win the title by, and saying they might do a Chelsea from last season, lead from start to finish, but find themselves second in the table now after 2 disappointing results. You know, the defeat to Juventus in the Champions League sparked the defeat to West Ham United that weekend, and then last weekend they lost to Tottenham, which probably hurt the most of the lot because it was a 4-1 defeat against a team they usually have a very good record against. They usually score a lot of goals against Tottenham. Tottenham are improving, but to lose 4-1 to them, really disappointing. And some of the goals they conceded as well, defensively they should have done better. You have to say that the offside flag should have gone up a few times in that match when it didn't. The assistant had a pretty poor game, but you can't really blame that defeat on that. Tottenham deserved the victory, perhaps not as comfortably as they got it, but City were just far short of their best. They were missing a lot of key players, it has to be said. The spine of the team pretty much was missing. Aguero again misfiring a bit. He had a couple of sights of goal, but nowhere near the player who's terrorised Tottenham in recent seasons. But things just don't seem to be going right for Man City at the moment, when at the start of the season everything was going right for them and they couldn't do anything wrong. They won every game, didn't concede a goal, but it's just not happening for them at the moment.
Yeah, in between those 2 league defeats, they had that game against Sunderland in the League Cup where they were quite convincing 4-1 winners there, and I just question whether Pellegrini, he played a really strong team in that Sunderland game. He had Aguero, De Bruyne and Sterling all playing in that one, and you just wonder, against a team like Sunderland, who at the moment look like the worst team in the league, you wonder if he needed to start all of those star players in midweek in the League Cup, because he had the lunchtime kick-off on Saturday, not that many days rest, and you wonder if maybe those players were just a bit tired. Like you mentioned there, Aguero especially has been misfiring, and so that's 2 Premier League defeats in a row now. They've not lost 3 in a row in the competition since 2008, so it stretches back a long way. It just shows, that this is a real chance for Newcastle to, sort of make a bit of history, to end that run there. And look at home as well. Usually City, you associate them with being so strong at the Etihad, but lost the last 2 at home, and that's the first time since January 2012 they've lost back-to-back games in the league at home. So that's where they really need to improve. And you say that, the West Ham one especially, that was a game where they really would have fancied winning, and the Juve one as well. Poor defeats there in both of them, where in both games for parts of the game they just did look like the better team but couldn't quite make score the goals. So disappointing run of form at the moment, and down to second behind Manchester United, which makes it even worse to see City rivals above you. So tough time for the club at the moment. They really need to bounce back soon.
Yeah, just going back to that Sunderland selection, I think he chose such a strong team because they had lost back-to-back games before that, and the performance, it was a very good performance. They ran out very convincing winners, and you thought maybe that might be a catalyst for them to start the season again after two defeats in Champions League and the Premier League, but didn't turn out to be that way. As I mentioned, the spine of the team really was missing. Hart missed the Tottenham game, and Caballero didn't have the greatest game. He made a couple of good saves, but you'd say he was definitely at fault for the Alderweireld header. He got nowhere near that when he came out to get that. Company's been absent recently, which has been a big blow for them because he started the season back to his best sort of form. I think he's a doubt for this weekend. I think he's not going to play in the Champions League by the sounds of things, but if they don't get him back this weekend, he'll be back before after the international break, which would be a big plus for them. Silva should be back this weekend, which is another big plus. And that spine, as I mentioned, should be back in full force at least by after the international break, and they need that because Toure, he played in the League Cup as well. Is he fit enough to play every 3 days? Probably not. They're going to need him for the Champions League, that's for sure, because he's one of their key players, but he's the type of player he's really involved in some games, not involved in others. You can't really play him midweek and the weekend every single week. So I think if anyone was going to be rested in that Sunderland game, it probably should have been him. But he played. I think he came off injured against Tottenham as well, so there was a doubt over him. But he should be all right as well, and Aguero should be. So they've got some key players coming back in the next few weeks. Most of them should be back for this weekend, so they should be back to full strength, and I can see them returning to form, I think.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season when they were keeping all those clean sheets, it was Kompany and Mangler at centre-back, wasn't it? And them two are both doubts for this weekend, and they've conceded more goals in the last 2 Premier League games than their previous 11 before that, so it just shows that might be where the problem is, because they were playing so well together, Kompany and Mangler, at the start of the season, and that might give Newcastle hope if, say, potentially neither of them play in this one, because Newcastle, they scored 2 against Chelsea last week, took a 2-0 lead against the champions, and couldn't quite hold out, could they? Perez with that great goal to open the scoring, took it down, blasted it in, and then Wijnaldum with a good header as well, and at 2-0 there, I think it was 75 minutes gone, and it was still 2-0, and you thought maybe Newcastle were going to get their first win here, but they couldn't quite hold out. Ramirez pulled one back, and then Willian's free kick that, it was one of those ones into a great area and Ramirez missed it and then it just went into the net. So a bit unfortunate from Newcastle's point of view, but they should have probably been able to see that out. Against any team, when you're 2-0 up, you should, if you're a good quality Premier League team, you should be able to see out a 2-0 lead when you've only got 15 minutes to go, but they couldn't quite do it and they're still down there in 19th.
There were more positives from that performance, though, wasn't there? Obviously, to blow the 2-goal lead was a big disappointment, but to have taken a 2-goal lead in the first place against Chelsea, all right, Chelsea aren't doing too well at the moment themselves, but it was certainly probably the high point of Newcastle's season so far, because it has been a poor campaign so far. It's even stretching back to last season. It's been a really poor run of form for Newcastle. They've only won one of the last 18 Premier League games, which is a dreadful record. They've only won 3 of 26 in 2015. Think back to the John Carver reign at the end of last season. It's just a dreadful record, and they're never going to get away from the relegation zone if they don't significantly improve that. The one thing I would say is in their benefit this weekend in particular is they've generally risen up to the big task ahead of them with the big teams. They've taken points off Manchester United and Chelsea already this season, got draws against both of them, gave Arsenal a good game even though they were down to 10 men for the vast majority of that match. Defensively, when they're under siege, they've got a good mentality about them. The likes of Colaccini, Tim Krul, they'll just defend that box and defend their goal for their lives. It's in other games where they struggle to pick up points, so that might give them a bit of hope going into this match, but it's still a tough task for them.
Certainly is. They haven't actually beaten City in 17 Premier League games, so it's a really long run since they last tasted victory against them. What's your score prediction?
Yeah, I can't see them getting a win this time out either. I think this is the perfect match. If City could have chosen a game to return to form in, I think this probably would have been it, either this one or Sunderland at home. The way those two North East teams are playing, I think you can go for a pretty comfortable 3-0 Man City win.
Yeah, I see City winning as well. It's hard not to pick them, isn't it? I know they've lost 2 in a row in the league, but you'd expect them to be back to form soon. I'm going to go for a 2-0 home win, so both picking City to win this one fairly comfortably. Thanks for joining us.